Welcome to my tutorial for Joe and Mac for the Game Boy. I just completed the NES version of this game, which plays quite a bit better than this version, but it still plays kind of shitty. But yeah, this version plays a lot worse than the NES version, so this is one of the worst versions of the game. It might be the worst port of the game. It is playable though, but because of the bad control, I actually took it a lot slower than I normally would on these kind of games. So I would say that's probably the best strategy for this game, is to take everything really slow, not try to run through the screen. Because the control just isn't real responsive, so I did a lot better just by playing it real safe and just playing the game real slow. Because shit just kind of since the game is so zoomed in because it's a portable game, shit just kind of pops in on the edge of the screen right away without any time to react. And you have sluggish control, really bad hitboxes. You take damage very, very easily. It's very pixelated, so it's kind of hard to make out exactly what's going on if you try to move fast. So it's just a lot easier to take the game real slow, kind of creep through. And I would recommend using save states on an emulator to practice the harder stages and practice all the bosses just to make sure you have them down. What I did was, first I did a practice run of the full game using save states. So I basically, save state cheat through the whole game, and I practice sections that I think may give me trouble, like bosses, to make sure I have them down. And then I'll go and do full attempts on the game and try to beat the game legit. And that's mostly what I do with these type of games, to put them together. But I did a real sloppy practice run in about 45 minutes, and I didn't really practice anything too well. So I had to re-practice parts as I had failed attempts. I would re-practice the parts that I got stuck on, and then eventually I would break through. I would have practiced all the parts that ended up giving me trouble. So I recommend playing like that to learn the game. But aside from that, if you press up and jump, you'll do a super jump. And I don't really recommend using the regular jump except for maybe one stage where it's useful. But it's a limited amount of times that I would use the regular jump. I most of the time would use the super jump. Now there is a few areas in the game where using the super jump makes you fuck up your jump, and because you'll hit into the ceiling, the invisible ceiling, even though there's an open sky, and it will fuck up your jump. So there's a few parts where it's good to use regular jump. Now, where these fish are jumping out of is actually supposed to be water, but it looks like, a dented-in ground or something like that. It doesn't look too good, so it can be deceptive, but, don't go in the water. Now, whenever you see these pterodactyls with these little eggs, you want to kill the pterodactyl with a single projectile because you can get one-up drops, and sometimes I've gotten 2 one-ups from them early on in the game. In rare incidences, I think they will actually drop the lightning weapon too, which is the best weapon in the game. If you ever see a lightning bolt, pick it up. Sometimes you can get it early on in the game, and it will make the bosses a lot easier. And it tears through the enemies much faster too, so it's definitely worth getting that. But if you can't get that, the next best thing to get is the wheel weapon. Aside from that, I wouldn't get anything else aside from the hammers you start with. I would just keep those unless you can get either the wheel or the lightning, which is the best weapon in the game. So for this boss, stay back here and just jump with your super jump and throw out 2 hammers each time you jump. And just keep doing that. Occasionally you may want to kill the plants that he creates. The reason I'm standing right where the plants spawn at is because if you stand back a little bit farther, your axes won't reach the plant. So I just ended up doing it this way. There's probably a better way to do it, but if you just take out the plants occasionally, when he creates both plants, just wipe them out, and then just resume jumping and throwing the axes. You shouldn't really take any damage on the stage, so you should be able to beat it easily that way. You see, I still had quite a bit of health left over, so I found that was an effective enough way to deal with it. The first boss is very easy. You basically just jump straight up and throw your axes and just rinse and repeat. Just keep doing it, as you saw me do. So this stage is going to be the first vertical climbing stage, and probably the only one in the game. But it's not hard. The idea with this stage is not to fight too much. It's better to just keep jumping up. Because it's hard to fight these guys because there's a lot of bullshit positioning. And like I said, with the way this game works, it's kind of shitty. So it's not worth trying to fight everything in parts like this because the game is kind of shittily designed. So, with the hitboxes, and it's just awkward. You have very floaty movement and, kind of delayed control. A lot of slowdown. It's just the game does not play great. It plays even worse than the NES one. So for this guy, if he gets close to you, you can take some damage and damage the shit out of him by doing what I just did there. But for the most part, he's not going to go down that low most of the time. So when he's like this, in this position, you can actually throw the axes up and hit him in the head. But the best way to damage him is just to wait when he comes off the edge of the screen, jump and throw a few axes while jumping, and then just kill one of the baby pterodactyls on the ground. As long as you stay to the right or left edge of the screen, he'll usually never drop the pterodactyl egg on the left or right of the screen, so you're pretty much safe. You see me going towards the right of the screen to avoid the dropping egg. Usually if you stay on either the left or right extreme of the screen, the egg won't drop on you, so you'll have plenty of room to kill that little baby pterodactyl. And all you're going to do, like I said, is just jump as he's coming out of one of the edges of the screen and throw 2 axes and you'll hit him. And don't be greedy with your hits, unless you're somewhat familiar with the boss. I was a little bit familiar with the boss by that point, so I did some extra damage that I wasn't initially doing. This part's a pain in the ass, but it's easy once you understand how it works. But it has very glitchy, properties where you get stuck underneath the platforms and will just die and lose all your health. The platforms will grind you if you're not positioned a certain way. It looks like your feet are touching the platform, but you'll just get grinded underneath and die. It's very, very cheap. But aside from that, you'll want to practice that, obviously, with some save states. And for most of those platforms, you can kind of do a super jump, and while you're airborne, the platforms will come back up and you can get back on them. Some of them you can actually jump across from platform to platform. But this is a stage that you're going to want to memorize and practice with save states. Make sure that you have it down. It's short, there's no boss, but you want to make sure you have it down so you don't drain your lives on that stage. You only have a few lives that you get in this game, and there's no continues, just like the NES game. So drop down here and get that lightning bolt. That's the best weapon in the game. If you die, you will revert back to your regular tomahawk weapon, so you don't really want to die. But if you die on this stage, you can get the lightning again, so it's not a problem if you die on this stage, but this is another one you're going to want to practice. It's specific. You want to make sure you kill those pterodactyls before you try to make the jump across, because they will knock you into the holes. So you just want to play carefully with that. This is definitely another stage to practice, though. This is where the stages start getting more challenging, where, you can't just walk slow and beat the stage. So that was one of those awkward moments where you kind of just get grinded to death. Like you should be able to bounce out of that, but for some reason, maybe it's supposed to be a one-hit death. I'm not sure. Most of the time when you fall in a pit, you bounce out and take damage to your health. But sometimes you just get, fucking grinded to death. I don't know why. I don't know if that was intentional for this part. But either way, I think that was the only death I had on this run. If not for that cheap little grinding that happened, I would have had a no-death run on the game. But I think the game took me around 2 hours and 20 minutes to beat or something around there. I'll have it posted in the description of the tutorial. I also have a playthrough with no commentary. It's the same playthrough, but it just has, the music and sound of the game. But yeah, that was my only real fuck-up. But the stage really isn't hard if you take it slow and if you kill the flying birds before you cross the pits. Of course, you don't want to jump into the lava when it's raising up either, but it's very basic. So for this guy, you start off all the way on the left side of the screen. You'll get some hits when he stops spinning. Then you want to jump over him, but make sure you do it from far away because the hitboxes are bad. Then get back to the left side of the screen. That's where he stops again. So now jump over him again. Now he's going to come towards you again. Jump over him again and go back to the left side of the screen. You see the pattern. He's always going to, after that, he's going to stop right on the left side of the screen. He does it in the same amount of time each time. So, he's going to come back. He's going to roll the full length of the screen here. and then he's going to roll back about halfway where he stops. So he's going to keep doing that until he dies. So the only trick with this is to, be ready to jump out of there when he starts to spin again, basically. Because if you don't do that, you will get hit. It's a lot harder if you only have the tomahawk weapon, but it's still an easy fight. But, it's going to take a lot longer if you have the basic tomahawk weapon. It takes a lot more hits to kill him. So you're going to be repeating that pattern for quite a while. It is a very easy pattern, but the hit detection is so bad in this game, you have to make your jump kind of far away. That's why you saw me being super careful and jumping over that ball from pretty far away. It's not like a normal game where you could cut it really close. So for this stage, it's a very easy stage. You just want to creep the screen and move slow. Actually, this is a really short stage, I forgot. So super easy. If you creep the screen, you can get over those rocks that initially drop. But for this guy, all you're going to be doing is keeping a little bit of distance, like mid-range, and just, attacking the shit out of his trunk. And you should be able to out-damage him before he kills you. You can take some damage, it's okay. But now if you have just the basic tomahawk, it may be harder to out-damage him like that. It really fucks you up if you do lose this weapon. It makes it a lot harder. So, ideally, once you get this lightning, there's not much game left. So, ideally, you want to try to survive the rest of the game. It's really not a hard game when you know how to play it. So, if you are dying later on, just try to learn these stages with save states and make sure you get them down. And try to follow, the patterns you see me doing with avoiding things. Like here, I like to stay on the bottom and take out these dinosaurs instead of going up top and fighting the rock guys directly. Now, that was just sloppy. For the rock guys, all you have to do is inch the screen a little bit next to them, and you'll lure them to throw the rock down. And then you just move to the opposite side. It's very easy. There's no reason for me to get hit there. It's just sloppy. See, that's what you do. You lure it out, and he throws it down, and then the guy runs away. It's much easier to deal with the rock guys that way than to go up to where they are on the top area and fight them, because they'll throw the rocks horizontally at you, which it's like hit or miss if they're going to hit you. If you can try to destroy them with your projectile, but it can get very sloppy with the hitboxes. So I would recommend staying on the bottom. The dinosaurs are very easy to deal with if you're paying attention and scrolling the screen very slowly. Now, the dinosaurs take a lot of hits with a regular weapon. They take 4 hits, I believe, with the tomahawk. So that's harder, but you dealt with them in the first stage by creeping the screen and playing very carefully. And with the lightning, they're very easy. They only take 2 hits, though, but you don't want to run through because they will pop into the edge of the screen. And if the dinosaur hits you at any point in the game, it does massive damage. That little dinosaur, for some reason, does a huge amount of damage, which is strange. So this is the same boss again, pretty much, except I think this time the pterodactyl just happens to be kind of out and flying around without the egg. Most of the time I see the bird flying around. I don't even know if this guy drops an egg. I think the pterodactyl is always out, the little baby pterodactyl. But probably because of the spawn limits, or the sprite limits on the Game Boy, everything is moving pretty slow, and there's not a lot of enemies on screen. So it's very easy to keep up with this. You kill the baby bird, and then you jump straight up and fire 2 projectiles at the boss. That's about it. Jumps are very floaty, so it is easy to still be airborne when the pterodactyl floats towards you, and then you'll take damage. So just do it very early. It's very easy. You just got to get the timing down so that you're not airborne when the pterodactyl's coming down towards you. It's just a long-ass fight, especially if you have the tomahawk weapon. This fight takes very, very long. And it's just very tedious. It's not hard. It's just a big waste of time, basically. So at least if you have the sparks, it'll be over quite a bit sooner. But it's still a very slow fight. But really, it lacks any kind of challenge. It's just the same shit. But yeah, don't get greedy with trying to get extra hits, and it's not worth it because the game does not play too well. And you'll get punished for that, for trying to jump towards the boss and throw shit at him. I recommend just jumping straight up, and if the shots don't land, if your 2 shots don't land in the air, then just wait for the next cycle. Wait for him to circle back around. It's not worth trying to, get extra hits in. Very easy boss. Pretty much all the bosses are, very easy. The plant is probably the hardest boss, like the NES version. The NES version has a very cheap plant fight. It's extremely cheap. But in this game, at least the plant boss isn't total bullshit like the NES one. Which I have a tutorial up for the NES one, so check that one out if you want to see the differences. That one's a little bit harder because of some of the bullshit, but it does play a lot better than this. Though this game actually has actual levels that are a decent length. The NES version, the levels have almost no length to them. They're extremely short. But see, those dinosaurs do creep up fast, and your shots are so slow. Sometimes you'll press the fire button, your shots don't even come out, I think, because of the slowdown. So like I said, it's not a responsive game. It's just better to move slow. But this is a very easy stage if you just creep up and take these guys out. I find that throwing the lightning projectiles forward kind of blocks the flying enemies from hitting me sometimes, but it didn't work too well that time. Enemies also do drop health quite often when you kill them. It's either health or a bomb usually. But they give you very little amount of health back, so getting hit is not good in this game because you lose a lot more health than you regain for killing the enemies. So it's better just to play careful. When you start a stage, you don't start with full health, oddly enough, but you can build it up a little bit by collecting some fruit if you don't get hit. So this is an extremely easy boss. You're pretty much just jumping straight up and throwing sparks at it. And you can get it into a loop to where it just keeps getting knocked back and can't really do anything, as you see me doing here. And if you get this loop, it's very easy, and it's not hard to get it in this loop if you're just jumping straight up and firing. If he does release a dinosaur out of his mouth like that, you're better off killing it, but you don't need to because he's so easy, but it may cause you, trouble, so you may want to kill it. But there's not much to say about that. Very easy. Now this is the final stage, and it's super easy. You just take it slow and just kill the enemies that appear. And just try to build your health up in this stage so that you have all your health for the final boss, which is very easy. But you still want to have your health. So just take the stage slow. There's going to be a few flying enemies that you're going to want to take out. Though you could probably try to just walk past them if you want, but I recommend killing all the enemies in the stage just to make it easier. Because you can see them coming, and they're pretty easy to take out if you're inching the screen. And that's really all there is to this stage. It's basically just enemies. It's very similar to the first stage with enemies. There's no obstacles really. It's just kill the enemies as they appear on the screen. The only thing that really makes this game even a little bit challenging is because it plays kind of shitty. That's the main challenge of the game. So yeah, kill this bird. It may give you a 1-up, but don't get any other weapons if you have the lightning. Don't get the fucking boomerang or any of the other shit. The boomerang seems pretty shitty. It has a really weird angle that it hits at. I tried it once, but I wouldn't use it again. I think I was moving a little fast and spawned out the enemies kind of quick, but you can take your time, I think, for that part. So now all you're going to do is get under the boss where you see me standing and just fire straight up. And now whenever an enemy approaches you on either the left or right side, just pivot and, fire a few shots in the other direction to kill the enemies that appear. But it's very fucking easy. And that's it. So it's really not too bad, but it's harder than it looks due to the bad control and hit detection and all that kind of shit. So I recommend practicing all the sections with save states before doing your, legit attempts on the game. Use save states and do a full practice run, and then you'll have a good chance at completing it. And then if you die on any parts, make a save before any parts that seem like they might give you trouble, and then you can practice those parts that you failed your run on until you break through. If you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.